Good morning. I'm Patrice Funderburg, Executive Director here at the Center for Community Transitions, and welcome to Greater Charlotte Pathways Home, an executive convening on Second Chance Employment. Over 100 people registered to attend this event this morning, and this is a very important conversation, so thank you for being here. Since 1974, the Center for Community Transitions has been focused on strengthening our community by working alongside people who have had contact with the criminal legal system. We help them sustain healthy, safe, and productive lives with positive supports. Last year, CCT supported over 500 people through our 3 programs: our LifeWorks employment program, our Families Doing Time, social and emotional learning and enrichment program, and our residential program, where I'm joining you from today, where 30 currently incarcerated women are serving the end of their sentence while practicing re-entry before they return to their communities. By investing in workers with criminal records, we can gain positive employment, wage, and recidivism outcomes, improve family stability, and promote public safety to benefit the whole community. 303 people graduated from our LifeWorks employment program last year. 62% of them found employment, 86 were still employed after 6 months, and 84% did not recidivate within 1 year. The research shows that 75% of people who have been incarcerated will still not have a job 1 year after they've been released from incarceration. This contributes to a 27% unemployment rate for this population. In 2019, NC Commerce reported that 61% of North Carolinians were employed at a real median wage of around $28,000, compared to 45% of those who were justice involved earning just around $6,000. Today, I'm proud to bring together an esteemed group of speakers, super excited about that, who will cover key legislation, economic and workforce trends, and actionable next steps on how you can join us by investing in getting talent back to work. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Bank of America, for stepping up their commitment to workforce development and partnering with CCT to make today possible. Let's hear from Charles Bowman, Market President for North Carolina and Charlotte.
Hello, I'm Charles Bowman, the Bank of America Market President for North Carolina. I'm delighted to be with you today. The first thing I'd like to do is to thank the Executive Director of the Center for Community Transitions, Patrice Funderburg, for having the vision and leadership to put on this event. I'd also like to thank her organization for over 4 decades of positive influence and commitment. Part of my company's commitment to sustainable and responsible growth is to invest in organizations that break down barriers and help fuel economic growth in the communities that we serve. One of the reasons for sponsoring this event was to signal to the community the importance of collaborating with non-for-profit organizations that help previously incarcerated individuals get back on their feet and find full-time employment. Our goals in working with the center are to connect these individuals with the tools that they need to create a pathway to a brighter economic future. Think about 2 statistics. First, every year over 500,000 individuals are released from our prison system. These folks don't have much access to continuing education, transportation, housing, employment, or healthcare. One of the biggest drivers, and the second statistic, one of the biggest drivers in recidivism, is whether or not you gain full-time employment. Yet, and here's the second statistic, over 60% of the individuals that are released from prison will not have gained full-time employment after 3 years, further contributing to a high rate of recidivism. Our partnership with the center is intended to provide support to these individuals and to direct them to the tools that they need to secure full-time employment. For all of you who are participating in this event, welcome. And thank you for your interest and commitment to mapping a pathway to hope. Hope for a greater and more vibrant economic future for these individuals. It is through our efforts that we can restore the dignity and pride that full-time employment can bring. Thanks again for being part of this. Let's continue the good work and help people find those pathways to a bright economic future.
Thank you for that, Charles. On behalf of CCT's Board of Directors, our entire staff, our residents here at the Women's Facility, and all of our clients, thank you again, Bank of America. Now I have a special message for you from our mayor, LYLES.
Hi, I'm Mayor LYLES, and as you're convening on Second Chance Employment, I want to recognize with a proclamation the importance of this person in the work that's being done with re-entry. Whereas the number of women in prison has been increasing 2 times the rate of growth of men since 1980. 80% of women in jails are mothers, and most of them are primary caretakers of their children. Whereas on February 28th, Charlotte City Manager Ron Carley announced that the city had banned the box for city job applications. And whereas Ramona Brandt was sentenced to life in prison on February 2nd, 1995 for a first-time nonviolent drug conspiracy offense. Whereas Ramona received clemency on December the 15th, 2015 and was pardoned by President Obama after serving 21 years in federal prison. And whereas Ramona Bryant was employed by the City of Charlotte in 2016 until February 2018. Whereas during her incarceration, Ramona was an active member of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls, an organization created with a vision to end incarceration of women and girls. And whereas Ramona died unexpectedly on February 25th, 2018, at the time of her death, she was in the process of organizing an internal educational event for the City of Charlotte employees to improve second chance job opportunities. Now, therefore, I, Vi Alexander Lyles, Mayor of Charlotte, do hereby proclaim February 25th, 2021 as Ramona Brandt Day. We miss you, Ramona. Have a great event.
Our dear friend Ramona died 3 years ago today. Honoring her legacy to change the narrative about people who have justice involvement can now live on. This is Ramona's story.
I had never been in trouble before, so I didn't understand the law and how it works. You take them to trial and they're going to give you the maximum. And that's what happened. I was dating a young man, which is the father of my children, and he was involved with drugs. When he was arrested, they wanted him to take a plea agreement, which he refused. And they told him if he didn't take the plea agreement, then I would be indicted. He felt that they didn't have anything against him and that he was going to take his case to trial. I was told that I was not going to do any prison time, just sign the plea agreement and everything was going to be fine. I arrived to court for my plea agreement and my lawyer was like, oh, by the way, you're going to have to do jail time. There was no understanding of how much time. They were just rushing me to sign a plea agreement and they said we work it out later. And when we completed in court, I was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. There are a lot of women in prison that are there because of their association with the man. Not necessarily that they were involved, but the knowing is what makes us guilty because we know that they're actually dealing drugs. So that alone will bring about a guilty conviction. And it's not to say that we were all totally innocent, but not guilty to the degree that we should be sentenced so seriously in the courts. One of the officers came up to me and told me that the president had called and I had received my computation. I was going home. It took me a minute to absorb and I started crying and some of the officers were like, well, how much time have you done? I said 21 years. And someone else asked, well, what was your sentence? And I said life. And I was like, oh my God. So they started crying because they couldn't believe that someone was sentenced to that amount of time. And then the next question is, well, who did you kill? And I said, no one. There was no violence in my case. But sitting there with the president today was, it was such a blessing. To share our stories with the person that believed in us and to hear the stories similar but different. I just wonder, how did we make it through what we went through? It was a hard situation, but somehow we made it, and we're standing and we're ready to persevere and become the citizens that we need to become in society if they would only accept us back out there and open doors of opportunities where it's work related or housing or we paid our debt, and now we feel like we have to pay again, and we're not sure how much more. I'm not sure how much more we're supposed to pay.
Our Ramona didn't live to see policy change, but policy change happened. Now I'd like to bring on Bill Rowe, General Counsel and Deputy Director for Advocacy at the North Carolina Justice Center, to talk about two key pieces of legislation related to this work.
I am extremely honored and humbled to be asked to be part of a panel with the North Carolina Supreme Court Justice Anita Earls and North Carolina Attorney General Josh Stein, along with the other esteemed presenters who are part of this morning's convening. Criminal justice reform at the national, state, and community level needs to be a top priority and is getting more and deeper attention, especially in North Carolina. One area I have worked with numerous individuals, groups, including the Center for Community Transitions, businesses, and others, is the need for a commitment to a reentry system that helps those caught up in the criminal justice system to successfully reintegrate back to their communities. In recent years, reentry and providing second chances to people with criminal records has become one of the most bipartisan policy objectives in North Carolina. The goal of reducing recidivism by opening up opportunities and providing hope to people with criminal records is supported by left and right advocacy groups, Democrats and Republicans, and most importantly, many of you in the business community. The numbers call out for a change in the narrative from tough on crime to being smart on crime. Consider there is an estimated 2 million people in North Carolina with a criminal record. I want to say that again, 2 million people in North Carolina with a criminal record. There are 28,000 people in North Carolina's prisons, and each year in North Carolina, 22,000 people are released to their communities. It is important to remember that 98% of the people in prison will be released someday in the future. And there's another nearly 80,000 people on post-release supervision and or probation. These are big numbers, and it took a while, but there is growing sentiment that a revolving door criminal justice system wastes a lot of money and does not make our communities safer. In the last legislative session of the North Carolina General Assembly, two bills in particular show the trend towards a bipartisan effort to reduce barriers to success and increase employment opportunities for workers with a criminal record. Senate Bill 562, the North Carolina Second Chance Act, had bipartisan sponsors and was supported by organizations from the ACLU to the American Conservative Union to the North Carolina NAACP to Americans for Prosperity. The Second Chance Act sought to incentivize good behavior and reward people who have done the right thing for years. The act allowed the cleaning of nonviolent convictions for people who had paid their debt to society and had gone years without another conviction. In a very divided General Assembly, Senate Bill 562 became law with unanimous votes in both the North Carolina Senate, North Carolina House, and all committees that heard the bill. That is truly remarkable. Another bill that shows the narrative is changing was House Bill 770, Freedom to Work, Occupational Licensing Reform. House Bill 770 tackled a long-standing problem of workers with a criminal record accessing occupational licenses. Again, this was a bipartisan bill that passed with near unanimous votes in both chambers. It is estimated that about a third of jobs in North Carolina require an occupational license, with more than 70 different occupational licensing boards deciding who is eligible. House Bill 770 ended blanket bans on access to occupational licenses because of a criminal record and required individualized assessment of whether a criminal record should preclude someone from an occupational license. This has the potential to be transformative and open access to some of the better paying jobs in our community. Senator Danny Britt, a Republican from Robeson County and one of the main sponsors of the Second Chance Act, called Senate Bill 562 a jobs bill. And when Governor Cooper signed the bill into law, he said, "This bill offers opportunity and a path to good jobs and a brighter future." Criminal records can be a huge barrier to employment and other opportunities that create an environment where some of the most motivated people in our communities cannot provide for themselves and their family. That is a terrible mistake. And urge you not only to give workers with a criminal record a chance, but to use your influence with policymakers at all levels of government to enact policies that increase opportunities for people with a criminal record. I have heard from numerous employers over the years that workers with a criminal record who are given a chance are some of the most loyal and motivated employees they have. The best way to reduce recidivism is to give people hope and an opportunity for a better life. That can be done by reducing unnecessary barriers to success and by providing the tools and investing in the people so that they can succeed. The businesses and individuals here this morning can make a true difference, and urge you all to be part of this effort, growing effort across the state, but also across the country. I thank you for being here today and being part of this incredibly important discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. That's a lot of good information that our employers in Mecklenburg County can use when they invest in workers with criminal records and help us get talent back to work. There's more from Raleigh. Last year, Governor Cooper announced a task force on racial equity in criminal justice. Today, I'd like you to hear some words from the co-chairs of that task force. First, we'll hear from our State Attorney General, Josh Stein, followed by his co-chair for the task force, Associate Justice Anita Earls.
Hi, this is Attorney General Josh Stein, and it's my honor to participate in this program on second chance opportunities put on by the Center for Community Transitions. You know, none of us are wholly defined by our worst day. That's why it is so important that we afford people meaningful second chances. We want every person to achieve their fullest potential because of the joy and sense of fulfillment and pride that brings them as individuals. But we also have a collective self-interest in people's success, a broader interest on the part of the community, because when people are working and gainfully employed and contributing back to the community, they're also paying taxes. And importantly, we can reduce the likelihood of repeat crime, making our communities safer. It's been my honor to serve on the Governor's Statewide Reentry Coordinating Council. We have recommended a number of policy recommendations, including around expungements and reducing the barriers that occupational licensure presents to people who have past convictions. We want to increase people's opportunity and ability to contribute in a way that is most meaningful for them. It has also been my honor to co-chair, along with Associate Justice Anita Earls, the Governor's Task Force for Racial Equity in the Criminal Justice System. And we made a number of recommendations to reduce the collateral consequences of incarceration because we want to facilitate people's reentry into the community. The programs, local reentry programs like the Center for Community Transition, play such an incredible role in this process. They can provide employment screening to help identify potential candidates for employers. They can perform employment coaching to help folks learn the best way to present themselves to prospective employers. They can connect individuals with needed social services, whether that may be healthcare, transportation, or housing, whatever that person needs in order to have a better chance of success. This is necessary and important work. Practically everybody who is in jail will get out. 95% of people in state prison will get out. Tens of thousands of people. The question is, what happens when they do? Because if they come out and find that door after door after door after door is closed to them, it makes it substantially more likely that they will just pursue the path that led to their involvement with the criminal justice system in the first place. And that is in none of our interests. And so we all must do everything we can to open wide the doors of opportunity for people leaving incarceration so that they can live that happy, joyful, prideful life that we want, and that North Carolina can be safer and stronger as a result. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Attorney General Stein. And now I'd like to bring on Associate Justice Anita Earls.
I really want to thank the Center for Community Transitions for inviting me to participate this morning, and I'm thrilled to bring you the perspective of from my role in the legal system. And let me start first by talking about the Governor's Task Force. Across the state, as part of our work, we had public hearings, we had listening sessions, and what we heard from people everywhere is that they wanted us to address the root causes. And I see economic opportunity as key, and the work that you're doing here and providing that economic opportunity really does address the root causes of racial inequities in the criminal justice system. So what do we know about those 2 million people in North Carolina who have criminal records? That legally, there are more than 1,000 collateral consequences in our state laws and over 1,200 in federal law. So collateral consequences are all the ways in which the law says something, you don't have access to something, or something's going to be different for you because you have a criminal record. The task force has made a lot of recommendations to try to address some of those collateral consequences, things like changing the process so that if someone has multiple convictions across several counties, they can apply for a certificate of relief in just one county. We are recommending that North Carolina follow 22 other states and opt out of the ban for eligibility for SNAP benefits that accompanies convictions for certain drug offenses. So there are a lot of policy changes that we can make, but making it possible, giving people the opportunity to have employment is key. And I will highlight another recommendation that we've made, and that is that it is important that there be both state, federal, and private funding for community-based and grassroots organizations that provide services that promote public safety. And those services include the kind of reentry services and the reentry work that we're talking about here. So the work you're doing is key and central to implementation of our task force's recommendations, something that we're working on for the next 2 years. I just want to give you a sense of how it makes a difference. And this comes from my work as executive director of the Southern Coalition for Social Justice, an organization that I founded when we had our 10-year anniversary celebration. It was a typical event. We're at Event Center. One of the servers asked if she could have a word with me. And what she told me was that she had that job because of an expunction clinic that the Southern Coalition for Social Justice put on. And that as a part of her having that job, she also was now having the opportunity to extend her education and open doors to even better employment. And I'll tell you, that was the best moment for me of our 10-year celebration. Don't ever underestimate the impact that you have on people's lives and on the community as a whole by doing this work. So I also want to say that fewer than half the people who came to our clinics could get expunctions or certificates of relief. And so that we really struggled with where can we direct them? what else can we offer them? So having employers who are willing to work with them is truly key. And finally, what I want to say is something from my perspective of someone who first moved to Charlotte in 1988, which, just to situate you, this was back when it was NCNB, before Bank of America, before Nations Bank. And from my 10 years in Charlotte, what I learned was that this is a city with a long tradition of public-private sector collaborations and partnerships that have been successful and impactful. So while the challenges are great and the need is huge, I know that you can lead the way for the state, for the region, and the nation in making things better. So thank you.
Thank you, Justice Earls. Listen, I get it. None of this work is easy. What's the old saying? Nothing worth doing comes easy. That's why strategic partnerships and collaborative approaches are more important than ever right now. One of our partnerships is kind of a trifecta partnership with the North Carolina prison system. So let's hear from George Pettigrew, the Justice Reinvestment Administrator at NCDPS.
Hello, my name is George Pettigrew, Justice Reinvestment Administrator, North Carolina Department of Public Safety, Adult Correction, and Juvenile Justice. And I'm glad to be speaking to you today about the reentry process. You know, every year we release over 20,000 individuals back into community from our state prisons. And we work hard to help make that reentry process more successful. Some of the things our department has done in the last couple of years is create local reentry councils across the state, in which local stakeholders are brought together to provide resources to people coming back into the community. We've also designated 11 correctional facilities as reentry facilities and brought in probation officers to start working with individuals who have 9 months before their release date. And I've had the pleasure to work in the Charlotte area with the Center for Community Transitions and Bojangles on a pilot project, in which people returning to the community are put through programming with CCT, and Bojangles interviews and hires these individuals. And what Bojangles has found is that the majority of these individuals are good employees, have maintained employment, and are crime-free. In fact, the pilot project has been so successful that Bojangles is expanded in other areas. You know, the reentry process is a very daunting process for a lot of people coming back into the community. This population also has a high recidivism rate, but research has shown the number one thing we can do to help reduce recidivism is help them to obtain and maintain employment. So I'm excited that you're having this meeting. If you're a prospective employer, I hope you consider hiring our people returning to the community. And there are many reasons to do this, but one of the most important reasons is that it will help keep our communities more safe. So I hope you have a great meeting. And on behalf of Adult Correction and Juvenile Justice, we look forward to working with you, and have a great day.
Thank you, George. As collaborations go, we have another collaboration partner with our Bojangles investment. I'd like to share with you some remarks from Matt Joyce, who is a partner at ENVOY Growth.
Good morning, and thank you for having me today. My name is Matt Joyce, and I'm a partner at ENVOY Advisory. We work closely with companies to implement fair chance hiring practices and develop proactive hiring partnerships with reentry organizations. In early 2019, we began a partnership with Bojangles and the Center for Community Transitions to make sure that careers at Bojangles were accessible to people with past convictions. As part of that effort, we work with Bojangles to ensure that company HR policies emphasized inclusion and opportunity, and that managers and company leaders were trained and coached on second chance practices. Through the partnership with CCT, Bojangles has hired more than 75 employees, and we've seen higher rates of retention and promotion for the second chance cohort. We've also collaborated closely with the Department of Public Safety to help minimize barriers of community supervision in finding and keeping a job. two key learnings for us in this work. Number one, the obvious one, is that companies implementing fair chance practices are accessing a strong and often overlooked talent pool. And number two, that perceived risks that are keeping companies from adopting fair chance practices, whether those be legal, HR, public relations, or otherwise, should be closely scrutinized and likely reevaluated. So thank you to all the employers and community leaders taking part in this conversation. We look forward to collaborating in the months ahead.
Thanks, Matt. Matt has been an incredible partner to CCT and the Bojangles relationship. We have more partnerships. Now let's hear from Katie Hetler, the Regional Director for NCIA, the National Center on Institutions and Alternatives. Katie?
So here at NCIA's Vocational Training Center, we are honored to serve homeless veterans, people returning from incarceration or who have been involved in the criminal justice system, and folks that just generally financially are struggling. More and more people need jobs, need job training, and those are the people that we're here to support. Our Vocational Training Center is unique because we provide a wide array of services. It's not just training in the skills of the vocation that we serve them in, but we provide services in vocational training, case management, workforce development training, and then job placement. So all of those together really provide the student the full array of services that they need for gainful employment at the end of their training program. We also provide lots of case management support, so supportive services, wraparound services. When individuals come in, we meet with them to identify the barriers that they have at the beginning of the cohort so that we can continue to break those down as we go through their training and they are ready for employment at the end of their training. Our success rate through the Vocational Training Center is about 72%. Out of those 72% of people that complete the training program, 75% of them leave with gainful employment.
So now that we've level set second chance policy in North Carolina, and we heard from not all, but some of our key partners, let's talk about the economics. Joining us today is Jeff Korzenik, Chief Economist at Fifth Third Bank and National Advocate for Second Chance Employment. Be sure to check out his new book coming out next month, Untapped Talent. Jeff?
Thanks so much, Patrice, and good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. You've heard today a compelling case for returning citizens being able to become productive and engaged members of society, why it's in our collective interests as a community. I'm here to make the very specific case of why it's in the interests of the business community, both collectively and for individual businesses. So what would an economist be without a few slides? So I'm going to ask for the slides to come up on the presentation. And we'll go to the first, the next page, if we could, please. And I want to step back to an economic truism that's widely accepted and really is without question within the economic community. Where does growth come from? And growth is essentially over the long term, and the growth potential of any economy is based on two factors and two factors alone. How quickly can you grow your workforce and how productive can you make them? The data you see here is data from the Congressional Budget Office. The blue shaded area is productivity growth. The green shaded area is workforce growth. And you'll see that over time, our growth rate has been slowing, and our projected growth, which is the far right column, is still pretty low, less than 2%. Less than 2% growth is not very attractive for any of us. Why is it so low? And you'll see that the green shaded area, which is our workforce growth, has been declining. And this declining workforce growth is somewhat an issue of demographics. Sorry, I understand the slides aren't coming up. Let me share my screen. Oh, no. Well, let me just talk through this. Are we able to see the slides? Okay, thank you very much. So in addition to demographics slowing our growth, we simply have had declining birth rates in the United States since 1990. We have another problem, and this is one that's been exacerbated by the pandemic. The chart you see before you is the labor force participation rate. What percentage of our adult, non-institutionalized, non-military population is actually in the workforce? And you can see the pandemic has done a lot of damage here. We've seen working parents, usually the mother, drop out of the workforce. We've seen people who lost their jobs early in the pandemic not be able to get back into the workforce. Long-term unemployment like that tends to force people out of the workforce for good. So if our economic growth is dependent on our ability to grow our workforce, we're in trouble. But there's a solution. And if we flip to the next slide, you'll see that the solution lies in digging deeper into our population and finding people who have been marginalized for the workforce and bringing them back in. Now, this is obviously of collective interest to the business community, because the more people you have working, the more consumers you have in the economy, and the faster your economy grows. But it's also an issue for individual firms. If you can't find the workers you need, you can't service your customers. You can't grow your business. Perhaps you can't even maintain your business. So this is an imperative, an economic imperative for businesses. At Fifth Third, we've looked closely at why people have dropped out of the workforce: long-term unemployment, the opioid epidemic, more recently, working parents dropping out. We believe the richest pool of potential in the economy is to look at people who have been touched by the justice system. In particular, I highlight in the green bar in this chart the 19 million Americans who are burdened with a felony conviction. Interestingly, fewer than half were convicted of a felony of sufficient danger to public safety that it even required a prison sentence. We have burdened people and unfairly excluded them from consideration in the workforce for what are often very, very minor crimes. And even those that are not minor, as you've heard earlier speakers say, at some point you have paid for your crime and you should have the ability to re-enter the workforce. It's an economic imperative. This is the rich pool of applicants. Now, simply having 19 million people available, now some are aged out of the workforce, some are employed, but I would venture to say the majority of them are underemployed. There are so many barriers to full participation in the economy that they are not employed to their productive potential, another aspect of growth. So having this rich resource is only half the story. And if you flip the page, you'll see the other half of the story. And that's there is a model of success that has been developed around the country by pioneering business leaders. And this model takes people who've been marginalized from the labor force, not just people with criminal convictions, but could be used more broadly, and requires a partnership to succeed. The critical role is being played by employers who have to be open to new ways of approaching candidates, new ways of supporting those candidates, often making up for shortfalls, not because people with criminal records have inherent flaws, but because they often come from backgrounds of extreme poverty and have challenges with housing, transportation, lack of mentorship. So it's making accommodations to meet those needs. Now, that is an investment, but it's an investment with a very good return. The cost of that investment is lowered because you have many partners out there, and it does require a partnership with good government policy. Many of the reforms that you heard today from Attorney General Stein and from Justice Earls outlined some of the changes and reforms that can help on the governmental side. You need nonprofits like the Center for Community Transitions to help make people ready for employment, and critically to help employers identify who's truly ready to rebuild their lives by being an actively engaged employee. I've talked about the investment here. What's the return on the investment? The return on this investment is that, without exception, employers who utilize these models of having a process for finding who's ready to return to employment and rebuild their lives, and giving them the resources to succeed, often through partnerships with nonprofits or with government, you get not just another employee, but you get a highly engaged, highly loyal employee. That combination of engagement and loyalty, meaning low turnover, is a recipe for productivity and profitability. And this has been consistent across every major study done. And as someone who studied many small second chance employees and employers across the country, I can verify that anecdotally, this has been reported consistently as well. Now, Patrice, early on in the introduction, challenged us to identify some steps that can be taken to lead you towards this opportunity. I realize not everyone in the business community listening today can take these arguments and is ready to start second chance hiring, but there are steps along the way. And on the next page of the next slide, we highlight what we call bridging the box. And bridging the box is a series of steps that can be taken to take incremental moves along the way to explore second chance hiring, whether it's the right thing for your business. My experience has been, if you take these steps, it will lead you to the conclusion that this is not just a viable talent pool, but actually one that is extraordinarily determined and loyal. It starts with recognizing that there are low-risk hires out there, people who may have had a criminal record and may be required to check the box if your firm requires the box on employment applications, but has been actively engaged in employment for 5 or 10 years. Why should they be considered any different from any other candidate? In fact, properly understood, when you understand what people who have exited prison or are simply burdened with a conviction have to do to overcome barriers, you understand that someone who has already done this and has been actively employed for years is someone who has tremendous dedication and persistence, grit, if you will. That's something that's certainly an attractive attribute in employees. Now, you may have trouble getting them because they're likely very loyal to their existing employer, but why would you consider that person any different from any other candidate just because they had a record? They're out, they're done, they're rebuilt. It's also important to educate yourself on what it means to have a felony. This is largely in reviewing a record, understanding the individual circumstances. How long ago was it? Was it a crime of youth, of passion, of frankly youthful misjudgment? A crime does not tell the story of a person's character today. There's also tools for educating yourself about the criminal justice system and some of the, frankly, absurdities in it. I always talk about a Twitter feed called Crime a Day, where an attorney in Hartford, Connecticut, goes through the federal code and each day pulls out some kind of absurdity that could land someone with a record. It's also important to see this in action. So go visit employers who are already done this, who have been successful at it. Those pioneers can show you the tools they've used. It may or may not apply specifically to your business, but it's a test that this is indeed a viable way of doing business. It's also important to visit with nonprofit partners. Go visit some of the partners you've heard from today. Go see what they're doing. You walk away with the sense that this is a greater opportunity than you might otherwise have realized. It's also important, even if you are not yet ready to hire people with records in your business, don't exclude your vendors from doing so. I've heard from many vendors, contractors, for example, electrical contractors, one notably based in Charlotte, who are precluded from sending workers with records to some of their job sites. If you don't want someone with a criminal record in your firm, why should you prevent someone who's doing maintenance on your building or maintenance on your office park? Why should you preclude them from taking this step and helping people rebuild their lives? It's in all of our interests to see healthier reentry. And then finally, I also suggest offering amnesty. You may have someone in your employment who's been a loyal employee for years, who has a record that was never uncovered. It might have been before background checks were as aggressive. It might have been before policies were changed. It might have been before the company was taken over and he or she was hired under a different policy regime. People who've been contributing to your company for years or for decades, who may be living in fear that their criminal record will be exposed, really deserve better, and we should be offering amnesty on whatever terms fit for your company. What I believe is that if you take these steps towards bridging the box, you will find that there is an opportunity here. As our birth rates decline, labor markets get tighter, our central bank is determined to run red-hot labor markets for years, you'll find that this is a viable talent pool and one that is a worthwhile return on your business investment. Thank you.
I don't know about you, but I feel smarter every time I see Jeff present on why it's important to invest in people with criminal records and tapping into untapped talent. Now let's localize the economics of it all and hear about the regional outlook right here in Charlotte from Janet Labar, CEO of the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance. What's the outlook, Janet?
Good morning, everybody. My economic development career actually started in workforce development. And I have long subscribed to the notion that self-sufficiency starts with a job. Employment can lead to upward mobility. But as we're learning this morning, not everyone gets a chance to work. And for the justice involved, their barriers in re-entering society are many. First, they have a record. Their educational opportunities may have been limited. They may have employment history that have gaps. And those with criminal convictions have less job prospects and limited access to housing and public assistance. According to our partners at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, having a prior conviction reduces employer callback rates by 65% for Black male job applicants, compared to a 50% reduction for white male applicants. In both North and South Carolina, we've taken steps in the right direction to solve for some of the challenges facing the justice involved as they rejoin our communities. The Second Chance Act, as we heard from Attorney General Stein, allows for the expunging of records and misdemeanors to give people the opportunity to be employed. It's the same reason that we at the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance are championing policies at the federal and state levels that advocate for clean slate reform. Expunging low-level offenses isn't easy, nor is it cheap. We're advocating for simplifying the process to seal or expunge certain nonviolent and low-level arrests and convictions by making it automatic 1 year after a person has fulfilled their legal obligations without rearrest or conviction. And with the passage of clean slate policies, we're able to grow our talent pool and collectively benefit from the economic activity of a productive workforce. We believe in second chances, and we know employers have the ability to reassess and reimagine their hiring practices. Whether it's fair chance or second chance hiring, I'm encouraged that businesses here are embracing the opportunity. We've already heard about some of the resources that are available to you out there as employers, and the great examples of public-private partnerships happening across our community. So we know this can be done. Jeff just laid out a compelling case for why this is an economic imperative. So let us be open-minded and willing to reevaluate how we open up and how we hire. I've come to appreciate how innovative the Charlotte region's business community can be when it sets its mind to getting something done. We are a community rich in ideas, in cultural and educational assets, and we have a strong base of industries that are keeping us thriving. But people are our greatest asset. So let's invest in them. We must ensure our economy is working for everyone. And second chance employment can free people from economic and social inequality. And if we want to be a region for all, we'll need to put in the energy, effort, and resources to see to it that second chance employment is a priority. I want to thank Patrice Vanderberg and the Center for Community Transitions for leading this work and elevating second chance employment as a way that we as businesses can expand career pathways for people in Charlotte and in our region. Thanks.
Janet is absolutely right. We are a community that has everything we need, including the people, to make investments on second chances and hire people that have experience of incarceration. One of the things that we do as nonprofits is share and collaborate. I also heard Janet talk about innovation. So even at the nonprofit level, we're innovative in the ways in which we leverage our resources and capacity. So here's another reentry partner, Rebecca Atkinson, who is the Southern Regional Director at Center for Employment Opportunities, to share a little bit more about the data. Rebecca?
Hello, my name is Rebecca Atkinson, and I serve as the Regional Director for the Center for Employment Opportunities Southern Region. The Center for Employment Opportunities, also known as CEO, is a national reentry nonprofit that provides immediate, effective, and comprehensive employment services exclusively to formerly incarcerated individuals recently returning home from incarceration. With over 40 years of experience and an evaluated program model that is proven to reduce recidivism and build workplace attachments, CEO serves nearly 8,000 participants across 30 sites in 11 states each year. We launched in Charlotte in September of 2020. Through our work in Charlotte, we assisted CCT with conducting an analysis on what industries would be the best fit for recently released individuals based on their demographics. The focus of this analysis was on jobs that would be above a livable wage in the greater Charlotte area. Additionally, the analysis excluded those that had above entry-level requirements. For example, those requiring more than a high school diploma or GED, or requiring additional certifications or training. It also assessed for industries that typically lack representation of people of color, that have high turnover rates, and that have the potential for significant process automation in the near future. We identified 20 to 25 industries and shared these with CCT. It is our hope that this analysis will provide industry leaders with ideas on how inclusive and second chance hiring is essential in these fields, not only for economic growth and upward mobility, but also to share the importance of investing in organizations that work to reduce recidivism and improve outcomes for returning citizens. Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. We look forward to digging into that data with our partners here in Charlotte and Mecklenburg County as well. Investing in second chances means investing in the agencies that you're also going to be partnering with to actualize these opportunities. We have local partners, and we're part of a Workforce Providers Council here in Charlotte that works with a multitude of agencies that provide workforce development services for people with barriers to employment, including justice involvement. Now I'd like to bring on Danielle Frazier, CEO of Charlotte Works, and Chris Jackson, CEO of the Goodwill of the Southern Piedmont, who are the co-chairs of the Workforce Providers Council.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Jackson, President and CEO of Goodwill Industries of the Southern Piedmont, and I'm joined by my colleague Danielle Frazier, President and CEO of Charlotte Works, and we are glad to be here with you today to offer our thoughts on the importance of second chance employment. Both of our organizations focus on helping people build their skills so they are ready as possible to meet the talent needs of local employers. We also help them overcome challenges that may be making it more difficult for them to pursue their career goals. We see so many people who have so much to offer employers, and we want them to be seen for the talented individuals they are and not defined by their circumstances. Many years ago, our organizations and several others came together to form the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Workforce Providers Council with the purpose of working collaboratively to improve our services and supports for job seekers to increase their economic mobility while meeting the talent needs of area employers. Collectively, we support tens of thousands of individuals each year, including those who have been justice involved. We hear and acknowledge the challenges they are facing, but more importantly, we see the talent they have and understand how they can meet the growing needs of local employers if provided the opportunity. As the Workforce Providers Council, we also know that one of the biggest challenges they face as they are rebuilding their lives is the opportunity to work.
We also know that no matter the economic conditions, whether we are experiencing low or high unemployment, one issue remains constant for those that are justice involved, and that's a lack of accessibility to job opportunities. According to a 2018 SHRM survey, 82% of managers and 67% of HR professionals feel that the quality of hire for workers with criminal records is as high or higher than those without. So we certainly have a narrative to change about second chance hiring. But it's going to take a collective effort and collaborative partnerships to make it happen. We know employment is a critical component to anyone's livelihood and ability to take care of themselves and their family. But it also instills a sense of pride and dignity and allows someone to be a contributor to their family, organization, and their community, something that is much needed for an individual that is navigating the additional challenges that come with having a criminal background. So we as the Workforce Providers Council, we believe that individuals deserve a second chance. And we are committed to continue to work together with businesses to increase second chance hiring by removing obstacles, by investing in skill development and equipping this untapped talent with the tools they need to be successful in the workplace. So the council looks forward to working closely with many of you in the future and helping to expand your talent pools while increasing sustainable employment opportunities for those seeking a second chance. Thank you.
So do you feel this ecosystem emerging? We've talked about policy. We've talked about the economics. We've localized the imperative. Now let's talk about people. We're ready to help, and here's why.
Work is where people gain dignity, self-worth, passion, and financial security. This year, almost 700,000 people will be released from prison. Most will be denied the opportunity to work because of bias, our bias, and lack of awareness. Hiring people who have served their time is the right thing to do. It is also becoming an economic imperative in a full employment economy. Giving people a second chance reduces recidivism and provides a willing workforce, engaged and loyal to employers who give them a chance to succeed. I hope you will join the more than 1,500 individuals and organizations who have signed SHRM's Getting Talent Back to Work pledge, committing to give opportunities to qualified people with a criminal background. Second chances enable us all to succeed.
Thank you, Johnny. And joining us now is the Executive Director of the SHRM Foundation, Wendy Sastrom, who will talk to us about bringing it all together on getting talent back to work. Wendy?
Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much, Patrice, for having me here today. I also want to thank and recognize SHRM Foundation's President and CEO, also SHRM's President and CEO, Johnny C. Taylor Jr., who you all just saw in the video, for his vision and strategy for where he's taken SHRM, the profession of HR, and most relevant to today's convening this morning is where we're taking SHRM and SHRM Foundation's efforts to support second chance employment. SHRM has been committed to furthering second chance employment for several years, and I'm really honored to have been asked to share a perspective and talk with you all a bit about the resources that are open and accessible to you all this morning so that employers, HR professionals, and those in your communities can really activate a commitment to second chance employment. Just for context, a little bit about SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management. SHRM is the world's largest professional society for human resource leaders. We have a really strong membership in the state of North Carolina. And as the voice of all things workers in the workplace, SHRM is a convener and a thought leader on issues that impact today's ever-evolving workplaces. We have more than 300,000 HR and business executive members in 165 countries, engaging 115 million workers and families globally. We exist to really help amplify SHRM's mission to elevate HR by mobilizing HR professionals to lead positive social change in the workplace through our investments in philanthropy and people. And a primary pillar of our work is focused on the development of strategies and programming that's specifically designed to help HR professionals provide equitable opportunities to individuals seeking the dignity of work and create and sustain inclusive workplace cultures. This, we know, will allow businesses and people to thrive in the communities in which we work and live. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, we know that U.S. businesses were experiencing one of the tightest talent markets in history. There were so many organizations struggling to find and retain the employees that they really need to succeed. And as we come back to grips with the impact that COVID-19 has had on the economy and the state of the labor market, we will still confront a mismatch between the talent we need to survive and thrive in a new economy and what they're finding, what our HR professionals are finding in the marketplace. As unemployment begins to decrease and the economy stabilizes, there are still stubborn talent gaps that have persisted from well before the pandemic. So one of the most effective, but we feel and find least utilized solutions to gaps in DE&I strategies is really to actively recruit and retain those individuals who are often, unfortunately and unfairly left out of consideration due to biases, misconceptions, that pool of untapped talent, and in this sense, certainly individuals with a criminal or conviction record. These individuals, as you've heard throughout the speakers and their comments this morning, all present unique opportunities and deliver valued organizations who are willing to make the effort to seek them out. Even prior to the global pandemic, many of these workers struggled to find work and wages they need to survive and thrive as a result of those barriers that they face to unemployment. So whether an individual has completed in a period of incarceration or has a criminal record, unnecessary barriers persist and are created thus a societal problem where productive citizens are deprived of employment opportunities and organizations are deprived of qualified talent, which creates a harmful downstream consequence for millions of people. As always, everything we do at SHRM and SHRM Foundation, our tools and our resources are evidence-based, rooted in solid research. And so I wanted to share a few statistics with you now. Some of them you're familiar with and have heard throughout the course of the morning, and some you may not be as familiar with. But in the US alone, 1 in 3 adults has a criminal record. This is about as many people who have college degrees. As we heard, each year, over 500,000, nearly 700,000 people are released from prison, and most find themselves locked out of the job market, as we know. The unemployment rate of those formerly incarcerated is actually 5 times the national average. And without employment, as you've heard, reintegration into society can prove to be incredibly difficult, and those who are formerly incarcerated all too often find themselves back behind bars. So even just possessing a criminal record can carry major impediments to finding work. People with criminal records need reliable jobs just like everyone else, and individuals who have served their time should not be resentenced by the gatekeeper and the access to those individuals who are providing job opportunities. Those are businesses and HR leaders. And obviously, we've all talked about the business benefits that exist to hiring individuals with criminal records. And the business case is what we lead with, in particular, when talking with employers and with HR professionals. Before the pandemic caused so many job losses, there were 7 million open positions in the labor market and not enough skilled workers to find them. As I mentioned, the skills gap is not over. We've pressed pause, and we cannot afford to overlook willing talent because we know individuals with criminal records are loyal and productive. Our research shows that the turnover rate for employees with criminal records is about 13% lower than that of individuals without. And an overwhelming number of managers and HR leaders believe those with criminal records bring the same or greater value to a company as workers without records. Bringing adults with criminal records into the workforce simply makes economic sense, as Jeffrey talked about it, certainly other individuals touched on. Nearly $87 billion in GDP is lost each year by excluding these individuals from the job market. At the end of the day, we have to ask the question and address the question. When our economy recovers from the disruption and job loss due to the COVID-19 crisis, will we send this talent pool back to the unemployment line? And we say no, that they're deserving of jobs just as anyone else is, with the same skills and the same human potential. The good news is that SHRM's research also shows nearly half of HR practitioners in the U.S. believe that hiring an individual who has a criminal history should not be a deciding factor. The HR profession is on board. We have an opportunity as HR professionals, employers, to get folks on board. And what I love the most, I think, about what you all are doing today is the fact that you're partnering with your communities. So let's work together to get HR professionals and employers on board, because only 29% of organizations we surveyed currently partner with community-based programs related to the employment of untapped pools of talent. Though more than a third of HR professionals report that while their organization does not currently partner, they are though interested in doing so. The future is bright, and the point is that more employers are making the choice to begin to engage. So moving forward, 61% plan to partner with community-based organizations to provide additional services for untapped talent, and another 61% they are planning to provide inclusive mentorship and networking opportunities. So we've talked a little bit about the why we should consider hiring the formerly incarcerated in your talent strategies and part of your talent management strategies within your organization, but you probably have questions as to how. And here's where SHRM and the SHRM Foundation can help. Our Getting Talent Back to Work initiative was originally launched in 2019 by SHRM, and it now operates in partnership with the SHRM Foundation. This initiative was created to really help ultimately end outdated, non-inclusive hiring practices and to get those with criminal histories a fair chance at employment. Our initiative, Getting Talent Back to Work, really calls on CEOs, HR executives and leaders, and other industry leaders to pledge to consider qualified individuals with criminal histories for jobs at their organizations. When our original initiative launched, we led with a pledge, as I mentioned, a pledge that asked employers and individuals to make a commitment to learn more and to take action. We released a digital toolkit, which has information, guidance, and tools needed for businesses to hire confidently from this untapped labor pool and to make a real social impact. There are things in the toolkit related to understanding legal factors around hiring workers with a criminal background, information about applying evidence-based best practices in hiring applicants with a criminal background, and practical guidance from industry leaders in acquiring, developing, and promoting talent, including workers with a criminal background. In late December 2020, actually, we completely relaunched Getting Talent Back to Work to include new tools, resources, marketing communications, and public relations strategies that you all can access free of charge and a scale to make your own to better tell the story and benefits of hiring individuals with criminal conviction records. And it has really, really taken off. We worked with subject matter experts like Patrice and the Center for Employment Opportunities to develop many of these materials. Primary components is a brand new digital toolkit, which is really a living library of the latest research, resources, and tools that you can use. Since the launch of the original toolkit, it's connected over 20,000 HR professionals to those resources, again, that they need to develop and implement strategies within their organizations. We've launched a new assessment tool. This gives HR professionals and business leaders access to a customized materials and reports that provide information and resources they've specifically identified were of interest and relevant based on a number of factors, industry sector, company size, anticipated barriers to implementation, et cetera. And since its original launch over the last few weeks, the assessment's been used by over 1,000 HR professionals. And finally, our newest resource to accompany our Getting Talent Back to Work suite of resources is our certificate program. This training was designed for HR professionals, hiring managers, and frontline supervisors, and is a 10-hour e-learning program that provides education and resources to equip HR professionals who complete the program with the information and confidence that they need to develop informed strategies that will actually activate the opportunity to hire and retain individuals from this incredibly valuable yet untapped pool of talent. And so I really, in closing, urge everyone to go to gettingtalentbacktowork.com to review the pledge, our resources, which again are accessible by all or to all and are free of charge, and take action. I thank you and so appreciate you joining us in this discussion today. I hope that you'll consider job candidates based on their merit and not on their mistakes. I also encourage you to call on other business leaders to join us as we take this step to give those deserving of a second chance the dignity of work and the drive toward better and more inclusive workplaces. Together, we have an opportunity to make a monumental impact to positively change lives and workplaces together. And together, we can build better workplaces leading to a better world. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your morning.
Thank you, Wendy. As someone who spent the first 25 years of my career working in corporate HR, I hope you can imagine how excited I am that I get to now work at the intersection of some incredible work that's happening in the HR profession and working alongside people with the lived experience of incarceration to get talent back to work. Our ask is that you invest in the strategic partnerships and collaborations that disrupt the cycle of incarceration. So as we start to wind down our time today, maybe you're on your second or third or maybe even fourth cup of coffee or tea or chai latte, whatever it is you like to drink, I have another partner to share with you. Jim Dunn, EVP and Chief People Officer at Atrium Health, has a special announcement.
Hello, my name is Jim Dunn, and I'm the Chief People and Culture Officer for Atrium Health. As the largest employer in the region, we are so excited to participate in the Greater Charlotte Pathways Home program for second chance employment. At Atrium, we constantly strive to be an inclusive, diverse, and respectful workplace. We have found that when we embrace diversity, we become a stronger organization, allowing us to provide more culturally competent and sensitive care to better serve our communities. Our mission to improve health, elevate hope, and advance healing for all, in and of itself, is rooted in diversity and inclusion. As leaders and teammates, we consistently use multiple resources to stop and prevent racial injustices within our own system. According to our United Nations Racial Disparity Report, the justice system disproportionately impacts Black males. Once an individual is involved in the justice system, lifelong repercussions can continue, particularly barriers to employment that prevent an individual from being free of their past. Prison walls rarely disappear unless employers are willing to provide access to meaningful jobs and opportunities. If a justice-involved individual is lucky enough to earn a job, employment is usually limited to jobs in support, food services, or specialty trades with underrepresentation in healthcare. So bottom line, justice-involved individuals need to be able to get a job and earn a living wage to support themselves and their families just as we do. As such, Atrium plans to disrupt this cycle of disenfranchisement of justice-involved males through a partnership with City Start Lab's Reentry Entrepreneurship Program. Through this new partnership in 2021, Atrium will hire, educate, and train and place up to 20 justice-involved individuals into in-demand roles within Atrium Health. In order to ensure we create opportunity but continue to protect our patients, we will welcome people who past offenses are not nonviolent and who have demonstrated they have learned from past mistakes and are not likely to repeat them. Our HR teams will identify appropriate roles to place participants in facilitating and providing wraparound services that support the spectrum of needs that we know come along with hiring justice-involved individuals, as well as creating a career plan for them, not just one job, but where do you want to go in the future to continue to sustain your family? This partnership will require commitment from the community, the individuals involved, as well as Atrium Health. This past year, more than ever, with the impact of the pandemic and social inequities that have been brought to the forefront of our society, we want to be part of positive change. This is just one of the steps we're taking to be part of such change. So on behalf of our board chair, Mr. Ed Brown, and our president and CEO, Mr. Gene Woods, I am confident Atrium Health is ready for this new endeavor that will lead to long-term thriving careers for this group of people who are ready to embrace opportunities before them. So thank you in advance for this opportunity to participate in such an important initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Atrium Health. So friends, you've heard from some corporate partners right here in Mecklenburg County that are doing the work, that are taking action and making a commitment to disrupt the cycle of incarceration by investing in getting talent back to work. So you heard from the mayor at the open of our program today, and sure you didn't think I would not invite the county. So joining us now is Dina Diorio, our Mecklenburg County manager, to remind us why workforce development is a priority for her organization, including people with criminal backgrounds.
Thank you, Patrice. Good morning, everyone. I am Dina Diorio, Mecklenburg County Manager, and today I'm glad to share some of our efforts as community partners to give folks a second chance. As the community's largest human services agency, we know that everyone is valuable. Every day, we work with those with criminal histories who need and deserve a second chance. We believe that if you invest in them and provide them the skills and opportunities to be successful, they can and will be successful. No one should be defined or labeled by their criminal background or circumstances. New opportunities and new training can lead to new jobs and help folks add value for themselves, their families, and our communities. In addition, the confidence and satisfaction of being employed can build opportunities for economic mobility. Preparation is the key, and that's where Mecklenburg County can help. Mecklenburg County is committed to providing a path for justice-involved individuals to turn their lives around. Our Workforce Development Initiative has a holistic approach that eliminates barriers to employment by providing pre-employment services such as remedial education, soft skills, and career exploration, employment support, which provides access to hard skills training, job placement, and other work experience, job retention and advancement, which includes job coaching, mentoring, and budget assistance, and supportive services comprised of providing access to housing resources, medical care, mental health, and substance use services. The county's also partnered with the Center for Employment Opportunities and have several individuals employed by the county through that program. But I also want to encourage employers to join us and take advantage of the IRS Work Opportunity Tax Credit Program, which provides $2,400 in tax credits for hiring qualified populations, including justice-involved individuals with a felony conviction for 240 hours or 6 months of full-time employment. There's also the Department of Labor's federal bonding program, which issues fidelity bonds to employers who hire individuals whose backgrounds can pose significant barriers to securing or retaining employment. The bonds cover the first 6 months of employment at no cost to the job applicant or the employer. These initiatives would not be effective without the support and commitment of all of our amazing partners on the Workforce Providers Council and other community workforce development service providers. We are still developing strategies and next steps, but we know that these services are essential to rebuilding people's lives while building stronger workforce. Justice-involved individuals can contribute to our economy, and when they succeed, we succeed as a community. Together, let's help the people who rely on us to discover a better life and a brighter future. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, Dina. So, as we begin to round down our program today, are you ready to invest in getting talent back to work by partnering with the agencies that you've heard today at the Greater Charlotte Pathways Home convening on Second Chances? I'll tell you one thing, CCT and our homies, we're ready for you. I want to thank our partners in Possibility for making today happen, because without them, it would be another conversation. The City of Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, Charlotte Works, Goodwill, the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance, the NC Justice Center, Attorney General Josh Stein and Associate Justice Anita Earls, NCDPS, NCIA, Center for Employment Opportunities, or CEO, Bojangles, Envoy, Atrium Health, SHRM Foundation, and our sponsor for today, Bank of America. How can you keep in touch? We all have social media now. CCT is not exempt from that. Visit our website, centerforcommunitytransitions.com. Follow us on LinkedIn. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at CCT Charlotte. Any one of these organizations that I named today, we are in communication regularly because we take collaboration seriously. Disrupting the cycle of incarceration is a conversation that we can admittedly say has not been happening in our economic mobility conversations in our city. The time is now, the resources are here, the people are here, they've always been here. Let's step up as a community and provide these opportunities for people to be invested in career paths within jobs that your companies potentially have. So thank you again for joining today, and we look forward to partnering with you on getting talent back to work. Have a great rest of your day today.